Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is the only place on your Echo device where you can watch and listen to live shows and chat with hosts in real time. I'm Anthony Davis. You can catch me here Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. Pacific and 11. That's from 12 o'clock Eastern. And to get involved in the show, just send a message, ask questions, chime in on what we're talking about, or anything else you want to send our way. Now, if you can see me right now, you're watching on an Echo show or Fire TV. The magic word to talk to me is say. So wake up your device, say the word say, and then your message. If you're just listening right now on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, go to backchannel.tv. And that's backchannel.tv and join the chat there. You see, easy. Welcome to you if you're jumping on the chat. Nice to know that you are joining in, part of us. Raymond's in from New Jersey. Stacey has joined us from Texas. And so keep your messages coming and we'll spend our time chatting together. We also have a subscribe feature now. This is a new active feature that enables you to touch the subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So do that and you'll be part of a very special and exclusive club here on Backchannel. Today's topics, we're going to look at politics, and he may have been out of power for over a year, but legal issues related to his time in office are still present for the former president, Donald Trump. So how big are Trump's legal problems? Also, dozens of House Republicans signed on to a petition to force a vote on legislation that would ban transgender women and girls from playing on sports teams that match their gender identity. We'll explain the bills that are trying to prevent transgender athletes from participating in high school, and in some cases, college and elementary school sports. Also, animal rights. The past few weeks, animal welfare activists have disrupted 3 of the Minnesota Timberwolves playoff games in 2 cities in an attempt to bring awareness to the serious matter of poultry. So do chickens' lives matter more than black lives in Minnesota? And on this day, in 1927, Betsy Anker Johnson, the renowned American physicist and the first female vice president in the auto industry, was born in St. Louis, Missouri. We'll take a look at her contributions to society as well. So, lots to get through, lots to talk about, lots to share with you. Stacey says, are you ready for the lunch hour? I am so ready for the lunch hour. I think more than ever, you know? I'm just slightly regretful that I don't have a lunch to enjoy with you. That's all. What's what's on the menu today? Is it tater tots? Is it rice and beans? What's on the menu today? Let me know. Ruben's popped in as well. Welcome, Ruben. Nice to see you. Welcome to Backchannel. It's 7 minutes after 9 here on the West Coast. 7 minutes after 11 somewhere else, and 7 minutes after 12 in another place. Juries aren't convicting drug dealers in deaths is the headline on the front of the Montgomery Advertiser this morning. This is a fentanyl story and an image of people participating in the Drug Epidemic Awareness Walk at Girard Park in Lafayette on the 25th of March. Judge sets hearing on transgender medicine ban. We'll be discussing this similar story shortly. A federal judge has set a hearing on a motion to stop Alabama's law banning hormones and puberty blockers for transgender youth from taking effect. I mean, the thing that makes me so sad is that people just don't seem to realize that there are lots of different types of humans. You know, there's not just one type of human. Humans are imperfect. We don't all come out the same. Some of us come out with predisposed to disease. Others come out with disfigurement. Others come out with limbs missing. Some come out Siamese, right? Attached to the head of a sibling, with their head. What are you going to do? You're going to say, no, you can't split those two up? They're just going to have to spend the rest of their lives conjoined? I mean, do me a favor. You know, it's like, this is pure prejudice. There's nothing more than this. Anyway, the district judge, Lyle C. Burke, set a hearing for May 5th to hear arguments from plaintiffs, including families of transgender youth and physicians, for a temporary restraining order or a preliminary injunction against the law, which is scheduled to go into effect on May 8th. I mean, you know, hopefully they'll get it overturned, but my point is that this shouldn't even be a debate. It shouldn't even be a conversation. Some people are born male, some people are born female, and for some people, it's all a bit screwed up. And that is the complexity of childbirth. You don't know whether it's going to work out, you don't know what you're going to get, you don't know whether they're going to survive or not. And the least you can do as a parent and as a society is ensure that if someone does come out who can breathe freely on their own, they should be entitled to have the life that they were born with. Just my thoughts. Gail's dropped in. Hello, Gail. Welcome. Press subscribe if you can. Fumbling Snails here as well. Stacey's having burritos with chips and cookies. Oh, delicious. She said, I learned about prejudice, and it's not right. Thank you. If you yourself would like to send a message, and you can see me right now, and you're watching on an Echo Show or Fire TV, the magic word is say. So wake up your device, whatever you call her. Wake her up and say, say. And if you're listening right now on an Echo speaker that does not have a screen, then you can go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv to join the chat. There we go. Okay, back to the papers. Calhoun, Ensler seek Democratic nomination in House District 74. These are the candidates working towards these primaries, the May 24th primary. What else? I think that's all on the Montgomery Advertiser. Let's go to the Los Angeles Times now, seeing as we're here in California. Oh, I am. I mean, you might be too. That would be a coincidence more than anything else. Russia resumes missile attacks on Kiev. Yes, I mean, that was kind of interesting yesterday because Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, was actually in Kiev for talks. They were like, Guterres is in town. Let's take him out. They started shelling the center of Kiev, literally, while the guy was in town. I mean, come on. It's like, have some respect for the United Nations. So he managed to get out with his life somehow. The other thing to consider is the fact that I read yesterday that Zelensky himself, despite Russian paratroopers parachuting into Kiev to kill Zelensky, he refused to leave Kiev and is still alive. You hear about that? Russian paratroopers literally were dropped into the center of Kiev, and still he survived. They probably did not. I do not know the details, but maybe it'll pop up in one of the newspapers. So that's very interesting, isn't it? I also read yesterday, Carla, I don't know if you're aware of this, I mean, it must be a big story in England, that the UK is sending 8,000 troops to neighboring countries, Moldova and Poland, because there is a fear that the war could spread out. And so the UK has now sent 8,000 troops and splitting them up around the neighboring regions. Now, that is a worrying sign. You see something like that and you're like, uh-oh, that is worrying. So, yeah, you keep your hard hat on for World War III because, it was only a matter of time. The tragedy is that, as this accelerates, it's going to give more credence to Donald Trump to say this never would have happened on my watch, and will give all the more license to him being re-elected, and therefore escaping prosecution, because he will take the credit for the fact that under his watch there was no violence, and now there is. And it's as simple as that as far as he's concerned. That's my concern. That not only will there be a world war, that there will also be a return of the Trump administration to preside over it, and the whole world will lurch to the right. Yeah, the world has gone mad. I think this is why I was a bit depressed yesterday. I was like, whoa. Okay, let's take a look at the LA Times and continue. Experts split on water strategy. Some say no area should be spared from use of restrictions. Well, this is because of this, what do they call it? The drought. And the drought is causing a water shortage, and therefore they have made it illegal to water your lawn more than once a week. Although for some reason there's a woman watering her driveway. There's a woman watering her driveway. I mean, who does that? You know? Who does that? It says major water restrictions are about to take effect in areas ranging from Rancho Cucamonga to Thousand Oaks and Baldwin Park to North Hollywood, but many nearby areas will escape the mandatory one-a-day watering limits. Why the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California has targeted these first ever water restrictions for areas that rely heavily or entirely on the state water project, a Northern California water supply that officials say faces a real risk of running dry. That's the reality. That there is no water, and yet people, I think it's very hard with Americans because there is this natural sense of entitlement, and that's not a criticism. That's just built into the American culture. America exists on its own, and people have been allowed to do what they want for as long as they want when they want. And the reality is that to be told you can't water your lawn, let alone your driveway, suggests to me that a lot of people are just going to be like, no, sorry, water should be plentiful, will be their attitude. I mean, do you think that water should be rationed in this way? Maybe you can let me know on the chat. Just wake it up, say the word say, and then your message to do just that. You're here with me, Anthony Davis. This is the Anthony Davis Show. We are on Backchannel. And if you're enjoying the show, there's two ways you can help out. You can hit the subscribe button if you're watching on an Echo show. Subscribing will let you know when we're going live. And also, we've got some special plans coming up in the next few weeks for those who are subscribed. Another way you can help out is, no matter where you're watching or listening, is by leaving a review. So go to backchannel.tv and click Leave a Review. Your positive reviews help this show continue. Pays my wages, basically. So that's backchannel.tv and leave a review. And thanks to you for popping in as well. Stacey says, Anthony, don't forget to mention the Alexa app allows you to do the reviews there for Backchannel as well. Yes, the Alexa app on your phone does the same thing. Okay, let's get back to the newspapers. Russia resumes missile attacks on Kiev, ending days of relative calm in the Ukrainian capital. Russia on Thursday bombarded Kiev as the head of the United Nations visited and met with President Volodymyr Zelensky, while also ramping up attacks along the besieged country's eastern front. The more I think about it, the more that I am certain that Putin is going to stop at nothing to kill Zelensky. Think about that. Zelensky's got such a, prominent kind of public persona, and Putin probably hates that. The cost of this fight is not cheap, but caving to aggression is more costly, Biden said in announcing the new package to be spent over the next 5 months. Yes, they're going to be sending $33 billion in additional military and humanitarian aid for Ukraine, and also sought congressional approval to seize the assets of Russian oligarchs who support Russian President Vladimir Putin. That's a lot of money, $33 billion. It's not quite as much as Elon Musk spent on Twitter, but close. Close. Joe Biden could have bought Twitter. Elon Musk put out a couple of weird tweets this morning, inciting hate speech, in my view. And that just goes to show where it's all going to head, in my opinion. He's encouraging the craziness. Still no way to succeed after 1992. Change is slowly coming to parts of South LA, but will residents benefit? Yes, the 1992 uprising that roiled Los Angeles put a spotlight on the socio-economic injustice that bogs South LA, bringing pledges of investment and community development. Well, 30 years later, many families don't have access to better jobs. Grocery stores are still a rarity, and the investment that's coming in primarily is making housing unaffordable. They say people are still living on minimum wage. South LA, which encompasses more than 20 neighborhoods, including Leimert Park, Baldwin Hills, and Crenshaw, has had a complicated economic trajectory in recent decades. Well, it's 30 years since the LA riots, you see, and so, that was really very much a turning point for, civil rights, police brutality, but also people were frustrated at the fact that they were living in such wretched conditions. Decades on, Koreatown's scars linger. It says when the city started to burn, James Ann's mother was driving her new BMW in South LA. Anne was 12 years old, but he knew the luxury car and her Korean face could make her a target. He called her car phone and urged her to get the hell out. On the radio, he heard business owners pleading for police protection as their livelihoods vanished in front of their eyes. On television, he saw much of Koreatown on fire, including an electronics store that he loved half a mile from his family's Korean Chinese restaurant. His father soon left their Glendale house, gun in hand, to defend the restaurant. Protect your family, he told the boy. I remember thinking, what the hell am I going to do? I'm 12. How am I going to respond if people come to my house with guns? The restaurant was spared, but many of Anne's favorite Koreatown haunts were in ruins. A CD warehouse, a Kinney shoe store, an ethnic grocery store, with signs in English, Spanish, Korean, and Japanese. Sana's just popped in. Hello, Sana. First time on the show. Welcome. Great to see you. You can click subscribe on your screen if you would like to, if you're enjoying what you see. We're just looking through the morning papers right now, looking at the Los Angeles Times. State's plastics inquiry targets Exxon. Yes, California's Attorney General has announced a first-of-its-kind investigation into the fossil fuel and petrochemical industries for their alleged role in a global crisis in plastic waste pollution. Attorney General Rob Bonta said on Thursday that his office has subpoenaed ExxonMobil Corp, seeking information related to the company's historic and ongoing efforts to minimize the public's understanding of the harmful consequences of plastic. Do you know what's really interesting to me is that where I'm from in England, the state would just investigate, but it wouldn't be done legally. It would just be done publicly. And here in America, everything has to be somebody suing somebody. In order for anybody to take any note, you have to sue them. It has to cost them. There's no shame. Whereas where I'm from, they don't need to sue you because to be publicly shamed is bad enough. But in America, it doesn't seem to matter. It's all about the dollar over here. So, if you are sued, if you're being investigated and you're going to be sued, then that becomes it's the only thing that it's going to make you respond. Whereas in England, they'll just do an investigation, write you a stern letter, and then the company will be like, we're very sorry, we're going to make some changes. Doesn't even go to lawyers. It's the American way. It's got to be legal. Because then everybody makes money. You see? Everybody makes money. Okay, let's move on with the newspapers here. Where should we head next? Let's go to the Record Searchlight for California. They lead with explosions rock Kiev again. Locals removed debris from destroyed houses on Thursday after a Russian rocket, hit by Ukraine's anti-aircraft system, landed in a residential area in Ukraine. The strike came as parts of southern Ukraine prepare for further advance by Russian forces who seek to strip the country of its seacoast. Yes, UN Secretary General visits capital city to survey damage. Because there was some criticism of Guterres previously. They were saying, he's not doing enough. And so, of course, then he shows up and he gets shelled. State Senate leaders say budget surplus soars to $68 billion. This is California's surplus. Soared to a record $68 billion, Senate Democrats said on Thursday, fueling a range of new spending proposals that include giving $8 billion back to taxpayers in the form of $200 checks. In January, Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom estimated California would have $29 billion surplus this year. But since then, the state has collected a lot more in taxes than it had expected as wealthy people who pay much higher taxes in California got richer. Isn't that crazy? They were expecting $29 billion in surplus, and it ended up being $68 billion. You know? It's like next level. These amounts of money are unprecedented. I mean, they make no sense to me. Makes no sense to me. $68 billion. And the reason for this is because California is the 5th richest economy in the world. More money is generated in California than pretty much every entire country on this planet. Democrats who control a majority of seats in the state Senate revealed how they would spend the money. The package includes a Better for Families rebate, which would send a $200 check to every taxpayer who makes less than $125,000 per year. The state would also send $200 checks for each dependent, meaning a family of 5 will get $1,000. Well, why is California so industrious? Well, because you have Silicon Valley. You know, you have Tesla based here. You have the entertainment business. You have the porn industry. You know, think about that. It might sound like a joke, but it's massive. You know, pornography is massive, and it's all based in Burbank. You know, just right next door to the Walt Disney Company. You know. You've got Disney in Anaheim, and then tech and startups and hospitality. I mean, it's massive here. Wine, of course, yes. You've got the Napa Valley and the wineries. So is it any wonder? But also, I just feel like everything is bigger here. You know, everything is bigger here in terms of like value. Yeah, you would think. I mean, Texas is pretty massive, but, you know, and Texas is such a huge state, but California is just, you know, it's also one of the most populous states as well. So there are more people in California than in many other states. There's a lot more people in California than there are in Texas. In fact, I think California might be the most populous state of the entire country. You need to check that. More people, more tax. Moderna seeks OK for vaccine for little kids. It says Moderna has submitted a request for emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine for children 6 months through 5 years. The company studied of 6,700 kids in the 6-month to 6-year age group. Researchers found after receiving 2 25 microgram doses of the vaccine, they developed levels of virus-fighting antibodies comparable to young adults who received 2 doses of the full-strength 100 microgram shot. In the Phase 3 study, which took place during the Omicron wave, researchers found the vaccine was 51% effective among these kids. Well, this is interesting. Maybe I have to get my little boy vaccinated. My daughter is vaccinated now, but maybe it's time to get the boy done. Oh my God. The trauma was insane. The first shot was literally hell. She ran out of the clinic. Literally had to chase her out into the parking lot, into like oncoming traffic. She was not having it. It took like 40 minutes to get her to agree, and in the end I had to hold her down, which I hate doing. And then when she went back for the second shot, she was like, "Yeah, this is easy. I can do this," because the first one didn't hurt, and the second shot literally took 30 seconds. So frustrating. It was my fault arranging my flu shot just before and proving to her that it didn't hurt. That was a stupid daddy mistake. Thought I was being a good parent, turned out foolish, quite foolish. So there we go. That's the Record Searchlight this morning. That's how they lead with some of their stories out of California. Aquatic Llama has popped in and joined us for the first time. Welcome, Aquatic Llama. Great to see you. Click subscribe on your screen. Veronica's popped in as well. Sanna's with us. Stacey's with us. Abdullah and Gail and Fumbling Snail and Ruben. Sounds like a children's bedtime story, doesn't it? You know? Veronica and Sanna, and Abdullah and Gail, and little Fumbling Snail. They all came to the party. They all let out a loud yawn, and they settled down to sleep. Nobody messes with Texas, says Stacy. Well, yes, you have a point. They wouldn't dare mess with Texas, you know. I've never been to Texas, but I'm pretty scared of it, I'll be honest. There's a few states that I genuinely am scared of that I just don't want to go to. Terrified. Carla used to live in Fort Worth, Stacey, so, you know, you're in good company. But I'm telling you, you know, Dallas aside, and maybe Austin aside, I just can't come to terms with the politics. You know? I struggle with it too much. Yeah, but you were there 20 years ago. I mean, it's changed a lot, you know, like even in the last 6 years. It's you know, since the rise of Donald Trump, Texas really now is very much home of the MAGA hats, you know? Yeah, there's good people everywhere, obviously, but I mean, you know, we also need to ensure that these good people recognize that you can't ban abortion and think that's normal. It's just not normal anymore. The New Haven Register this morning leads with Toast of the Town. Mayor, city, and officials celebrate the opening of the Armada Brewery. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? You know, more alcohol, just to, you know, drink the night away. Try not to worry about the problems on the planet. Just get absolutely bladdered, and hopefully in the morning it'll just be a new day. You know. What else? Girlfriends relish their conviviality. This is Girlfriends, founded 95 years ago by a group of black women in Harlem heading off to college and wanting to keep in touch. We were founded on the idea of friendship and conviviality. That's our favorite word, said Michelle Turner. Remember, it's a place where people can come, be themselves, enjoy themselves, leave titles behind. Many of the women do have titles. There's a former mayor, a Yale University associate librarian. Not every member is a college graduate, but most are well educated. Most of the women in our organization are pretty notable, pretty busy women. But being convivial doesn't mean the girlfriends don't give back. The New Haven chapter donates to local organizations and gives 2 $1,000 scholarships to graduating high school seniors. One is nominated to be a national scholarship winner. That's nice. There's a photograph of them here at their 2021 Christmas party, and they're all dressed like Santa Claus. I keep in touch with a few school friends. I mean, I have one school friend from my earliest school, like my first school when I was like 6 or 7, and he is now a senior captain on a major commercial airline called EasyJet in the UK, and he and I are very good friends. We chat all the time. And then I keep in touch with a couple of people, just a few people. I mean, hardly any, to be honest. You know, because it's hard to make real friends at that very young age. You know, you think they're friends. Oh, I'm dying. I just think that making friends at the age of 5 and 6 is like, it's transient, you know? That 1 minute, at that age, 1 minute they're my best friend, and the next minute you don't even know who they are anymore, you know? But I think when you get a little older, 9, 10, 11, 12, those are the most impressionable years, and those are the people you want to keep friends with. I mean, one of my best friends in London is, I've been friends with since I was, I guess around 11. And we still talk like a couple of times a week. So there we are. The New Haven Register we're just looking at right now. Cannabis retail applications flood state as deadlines near. It says with less than a week to go before the deadline for people to seek cannabis retail establishments, applications have poured in for a chance to win a license in a state-run lottery. Yes, as of Thursday morning, the weekly update by the State Department of Consumer Protection showed 4,715 applicants for the 8 categories of business, by far the largest being retail, which 2/3 of that total. Yeah, I think that they just need to make cannabis legal everywhere, to be honest. It's crazy that it's still a Class B drug in the UK and in much of Europe. It just makes no sense to me. Seeing as I'm like taking it all the time now. A friend of mine showed up the other day with a bag of maybe about $500 worth of weed products, all different types of things. Smoky things, sucky things, blowy things, the whole cacophony of items. It would take me years to get through them. I don't even know what half of them are. But I'm going to start tonight. Just so you know, I'm going to start tonight. They were just given them. Have these. It was at a party. Have these. Great. Okay, where did we get to? I think we did the record. Are we going to the Washington Times? Washington Times next. U.S. growth negative for the first time since the start of the pandemic. Yeah, this is another reason why Donald Trump's going to get re-elected, because you see the Republicans are going to jump on all of this stuff and use it to their advantage and say, well, when Trump was in power, the U.S. growth was on the rise. It says the U.S. economy shrank in the first quarter amid record high inflation, a sharp reversal that Biden blamed on technical factors as he tried to tamp down concerns of a recession in the midterm election year. The nation's gross domestic product contracted at an annual rate of minus 1.4% after fourth quarter growth of 6.9%, the Commerce Department reported. Consumer spending was weaker than expected and exports nosedived. It was the first downturn in the economy since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic in the spring of 2020. A recession is generally defined as 2 consecutive quarters of declining GDP, while many economists warn that a recession is looming, especially as the Federal Reserve raises interest rates to curtail high inflation. Still, few analysts predict a recession will hit before the fall. There's going to be a recession. Let's be honest. It's gonna be bad. In fact, they're going to have to crash the stock market because there's no other way of, kind of coming through this, I don't think. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. We're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, from 9 o'clock Pacific to, which is 12 o'clock Eastern. I really should just write that in the script, shouldn't I? And then I won't have to keep working it out in my head. You can send me a message if you can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo show or Fire TV. The magic word is say, so wake up your device, say the word say, and then your message. And if you're just listening right now on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, then go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. There you go. That's how we do it. Mitchell is here. Camille Gibbons is here. Christina is here. Spiffy Fly is here. Mitchell's in Nevada. Camille Gibbons is in Missouri. Christina is in Meghana. And Spiffy Fly is on the window. So thank you for joining us. Nice to know you are. If you're watching this on a Echo show, then just click the subscribe button. Just click the subscribe button. Okay, let's go back to the papers. What else do we have? Congress asks for $33 billion as Russia hits Ukraine capital. Biden tells lawmakers democracy is not cheap. But, the Republicans don't care for democracy, so they think it's a Democrat thing, hence the word. A spinner of truth heads U.S. battle on deceit. Mayorkas testimony reveals shadowy board. This is interesting. It says former Homeland Security Department leaders warned that the Biden administration had unleashed Orwellian thought police on Americans after the department revealed that its disinformation board to stop online misinformation is run by a woman who has spread disinformation and questioned First Amendment rights. Nina Jackowitz, who once dismissed troubling reports about Hunter Biden's laptop as a Trump campaign ploy, has been leading the new board for a couple of months, but Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas did not reveal the board's existence until this week in testimony to Congress. Well, this is all garbage, tragically, because, as you know, the Washington Times is a very right-wing newspaper that's owned by a church, and the Hunter Biden story is a non-story. It only exists in conservative minds. To suggest that Nina Jackowitz is herself spreading disinformation is also false, because the entire Hunter Biden story is false. It was a right-wing conspiracy theory that was set up purposely to try and prevent Joe Biden from winning the 2020 election. And you may remember when Trump tried to extort Zelensky over the phone by saying, "We want you to investigate Hunter Biden's laptop." And the whole thing, literally, it's just a non-story. It's very, if you study it, but again, it just depends where you get your news. So the Washington Times is really a kind of propaganda newspaper designed to look like a newspaper, but that's why they've started with US growth negative for the first time since start of pandemic. And that's why Spinner of Truth heads US battle on deceit. And then another one, unpopular plan to ban menthol cigarettes burns Democratic base. Further proof of the bias in this newspaper, It says the ban on menthol cigarettes threatens to alienate some of the Democratic Party's key constituencies, including blacks people. Oh man, what a mistake to make in misprint. Blacks people. Hispanics, women, and young voters ahead of the November elections. Well, that's also not true. Teachers told to hide gender issues from parents. That's also not true. China fails to disclose 2 bioweapon sites under international accord. So, this is the reality of a newspaper that is designed to look like a newspaper, when in fact it's just a conspiracy and propaganda pamphlet. Okay, next up, Herald and Review for Illinois. See how real this is. There we go. Workers of tomorrow. That's proper news. Parsons school students didn't know a fire truck would visit their school during college and career week until their teachers led them outdoors to see and to meet the firefighters. We just answer their questions and listen to their stories, said Captain Anthony Lalnado, who hoisted kids up to the driver's seat of Engine 5 and told each one, "You're hired." When he asked one group if they knew what firefighters do, one kindergartner said, "When a house is on fire, you have to go and cool it down." And not long after the event started, the firefighters got a call and had to leave, lights and siren going, to answer it, which their teacher used as a teachable moment. Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? To be called away to go and fight a fire is exactly what those kids need to see that fire engine doing. Killer gets same sentence. This is ruling that triple-decatur killer Contrell D. Williams is beyond any hope of redemption. A judge resentenced him to 2 natural life sentences that condemn him to die behind bars. He'd been given the sentences in 1995 for a murder spree that stretched across several bloody months in the summer and fall of 1994. Climate change to make new viruses. This is very interesting. It says climate change will result in thousands of new viruses spread among animal species by 2070, and it's likely to increase the risk of emerging infections, diseases jumping from animals to humans. This is especially true for Africa and Asia. Continents have been hotspots for deadly disease spread from humans to animals or vice versa over the last several decades, including the flu, HIV, Ebola, and coronavirus. Researchers who published their findings on Thursday in the journal Nature used a model to examine how over 3,000 mammal species might migrate and share viruses over the next 50 years if the world warms by 2 degrees Celsius, in which recent research shows is possible. They found that cross-species virus spread will happen over 4,000 times among mammals alone. Birds and marine animals weren't included in the study. I mean, this is very worrying, isn't it? I mean, I actually think this is a very good way to promote the effects of climate change. To talk about how disease, because, we all know what it's like now to live through a pandemic. And so to mention the fact that more pandemics could come because of climate change is a good reason to, opportunity to educate people. Zuo says, hi Zuo, welcome. Camille Gibbons is in, Mitchell's joined us from Nevada. Gail is here, and Chivalrous Seal just joined in. Welcome, Chivalrous. You can hit the subscribe button if you fancy, and, join us there. And if you're enjoying Backchannel, I'm Anthony Davis. We're live here every weekday, Monday through Friday, from 9 o'clock Pacific. That's 12 o'clock Eastern. You can send me a message if you can see me, and you're watching on an Echo Show or Fire TV. The magic word is say. So just wake up the device, say the word say, and then your message. And if you're just listening rather than looking, you can't see me, then you've probably got an Echo speaker. Just go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv and click join the chat if you'd like to do that right there. So that's how it goes, that's how it looks, and that's how it sounds. And Stacey says, don't forget 11 till 1 Central. Yes, let's not forget Central Time. Life without Central Time would be chaos. Final story on the Herald and Review. Officials gear up for election misinformation. It says Beth Bowers grew up in the 60s and 70s with her parents who marched in protests, wrote letters to members of Congress and voted in elections big and small. Her father, a World War II veteran, her mother, an educational counselor, did not use social media sites in their lifetimes. But Bowers is sure they would be disheartened to see how easily falsehoods about the US election are disseminated online to millions and millions of people. Yeah, I mean, social media is basically, it's ruined a truly democratic vote, if you think about it. The amount of propaganda that can get out so quickly and spread, there's very little hope now for a free and fair election, especially in the United States of America. Okay, let's go to the New Haven register. Oh, have I done the New Haven register? I think I did that ages ago. Hang on, let me just scroll back here. See where we're at. There we go. We're going to go to Lake County News now for Illinois. The News Sun. Anti-Semitic flyers littering local neighborhoods. Do you know, we had them here, right here where I live. Literally in my neighborhood. Anti-Semitic flyers were found in driveways in Highland Park and Glencoe on Thursday, which was also a day set aside to remember the 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust during World War II. The flyers with phrases like Judaism is communism and Antifa is Jewish militia were found in driveways along Sheridan Road in Highland Park and Glencoe Thursday morning, drawing quick reactions from local officials and faith leaders. I was disgusted but not surprised, said Highland Park Mayor Nancy Rottering, who is Jewish. I don't know if it was intentional today, but it's been going on throughout the Chicagoland region. The Hebrew term for Holocaust Remembrance Day, Yom HaShoah, started at sunset on Wednesday and ended sunset Thursday. Even Evan Moffick, one of the rabbis at Congregation Makom Solel Lakeside in Highland Park, said the timing was troubling. Yeah, it happened all around here in my borough, in my literally like in my street. It's a huge thing now, it's a huge thing now. And again, social media, which causes this level of anti-Semitism, to grow. It's very, very interesting. And I really genuinely feel that, we are now living in such a divided society that people are going to just start to normalize these things again. That's the worry. Just normalizing these things again. Okay, what else do we have here? Now is the most wonderful time of the year. This is a story saying it's not the holiday season, it's the advent of May. It's not snowing, it's drizzling with a bit of sun peeking through greyish clouds. Like the jingling bells on a horse-drawn sleigh, chorus frogs sing non-stop at Old School Forest Preserve in Libertyville on one of the last days in April. A flicker screams his high-pitched series of notes across the woods. Another echoes in response. A field sparrow sings like a bouncing ping-pong ball. Yellow-rumped warblers chatter in the oaks as a blue-headed vireo unveils its soft, questioning song. Below my feet are more gifts of the season. Creamy white fungus hanging like brackets on the shelf of a fallen tree, and a clump of yellow flowers huddled together with round leaves. These gifts reveal themselves to me by one whenever I venture outdoors this time of year, even opening themselves for me. All I have to do is look. Yes, at Right Woods in Vernon Hills, the ephemeral blooms of the bloodroot are so delicate the next rain will surely wash them away. Hidden among them are rue anemones dancing above the ground like stars attached in a low-lying constellation, and spring beauties with their 5-petaled whitish flowers with thin pink lines. The spring beauties are close to the ground, emanating from strap-like leaves. They are here this time each year, like a favorite aunt you haven't seen for a long time. Close to the Des Plaines River, my favorite time of the year is lunchtime. That's my favorite time of the year. You know, I like to start the morning with a big breakfast. Maybe eggs, beans, bacon, sausage, fried bread, mushrooms, tomatoes, an orange juice, maybe some oatmeal, a little cereal, some fresh fruit. And then I like to, breakfast like a king, they say. And then for lunch, I like to eat like a king. Maybe an Indian meal, some sagaloo, chicken tikka masala, some onion bhajis, some samosas, some naan, just a snack, basically. And then eat dinner like a king, they say. And so at dinner time, I like to have a nice, large, bowl of soup to start, followed by a large, roasted animal of some sorts, a pig or a chicken or a cat, and not really. And, and then a nice blancmange or fruit pudding, some kind of large, a buxom dessert. That's what I like. Breakfast like a king, lunch like a king, and dinner like a king. This is how you have to eat, otherwise you may die. Now, I think I'm just so over-medicated. I tell you what I've taken this morning. I've taken 2 paracetamol, 2 ibuprofen, a decongestant tablet, and a loratadine, which is a allergy tablet, and a zinc tablet, and a lot of orange juice, 2 slices of toast, one with peanut butter, the other with honey. Do you know, I bought a loaf of bread yesterday from an artisan bakery for $11 plus tax. A solitary loaf of bread. It is a malted rye. It's a malted rye. And it's completely delicious. And I have already annihilated half of the loaf in the last few hours. Half of it. It is heavy, yeah. I've eaten a lot of it. I mean, I haven't eaten anything else. I had it for like my evening meal last night. I had like 6 slices with some I dipped in olive oil with some Malden salt, the big salt. So I dipped it and tasted it. And the other stuff I buttered and added a little cheese to it. And then this morning I had 2 slices toasted. So I literally made multiple meals out of a loaf of bread like they used to in the olden days. That's how people used to eat. But they didn't pay $11 plus tax and tip. It came to like $12.50 by the time I'd finished. It's a beautiful slice, Carla. I'm going to send you a photograph of this bread, because I took a picture of how it looked last night when I ate it. Oh man, it was beautiful. There you go. I've pinged it to you. So this is the new Sun that we're looking at this morning. OK sought to give youngest vaccine. This is the same story about Moderna asking the FDA to clear kids under 6 for COVID-19 shots. Do you know, I've just noticed in the photograph of this bread, Carla, that was $11, that half of the bread has a hole in it. It got ripped off. Half of the bread has got a big hole in the middle. I literally, like, it's literally half the bread is missing. I mean, if I knew... I also said, could I have it sliced, please? They put it through the slicing machine. I've literally had to prise every slice apart. Well, no, maybe it is a sourdough. Maybe it's a malted sourdough. You know? Well, I don't know. I mean, to me, they're all the same. You know, rye is the same as sourdough, which is the same as whole wheat. You know, it's all the same. It's all bad for you. You know, it's all gluten. That's the way I see it. Yeah, anyway, it was delicious. And I've still got half a loaf upstairs, so I'm going to go attack that later. Yes, Moderna is seeking to be the first to offer COVID-19 vaccine for the youngest American children, as it asked the Food and Drug Administration on Thursday to clear low-dose shots for babies, toddlers and preschoolers. Frustrated families are waiting impatiently for a chance to protect the nation's youngest children, as kids all around people shed masks and other public health precautions, even though a highly contagious coronavirus mutants continue to spread. Already about 3/4 of children of all ages show signs they've been infected at some point during the pandemic. Moderna submitted data to the FDA that hopes it will prove low-dose shots can protect children younger than 6, although the effectiveness wasn't nearly as high in kids tested during the Omicron surge as earlier in the pandemic. Is that sourdough then? Is that a malted sourdough? I mean, all I know is that it was $11. It was delicious. It's so good. But what about that hole, though? I mean, that hole is, you know... Is that acceptable, though? Is that acceptable that I should pay $11 and there's a huge hole in the middle? Oh, so it's basically a scam. It's a scam loaf. You know, it's a scam loaf. Refund. It says there is an important unmet medical need here with these youngest kids, said Dr. Paul Burton, Moderna's chief medical officer. 2 kid-sized shots will safely protect them. I think it's likely over time they will need additional doses, but we're working on that. Moderna said 2 kid doses are about 40 to 50% effective at preventing symptomatic COVID-19. Not a home run for many parents, but any protection is better than none. That effectiveness is less than optimal. We were hoping for better efficacy, but this is a first step. So, yeah. Currently, the kids ages 5 or older can be vaccinated in the US using Pfizer, leaving 18 million younger tots unprotected. So there we go. It's a malted sourdough rye. There you go. I knew I wasn't high when you said I was high. Accidental Dinosaur has joined us. Mickey's here. Connie has dropped in as well. Sylvia, first time on the show. Welcome, Sylvia. Nice to see you. Lots of no names as well. You can change your name to a name if you want to. Just ask your device to change the name. So there we go. That was the Lake County News Sun. Let's move on a little bit now to the Wichita Eagle. The Wichita Eagle leads with Biden seeks $33 billion to help Ukraine. Yes, he asked Congress on Thursday for an additional $33 billion to help Ukraine fend off Russia's invasion, a signal that the U.S. is prepared to mount a robust long-term campaign to bolster Kiev and weaken Moscow as the bloody war enters its third month, with no sign of abating. Biden's latest proposal, which the White House said was expected to support Ukraine's needs for 5 months, has more than $20 billion in military assistance for Kiev and more to shore up defenses by nearby countries. So, there we go. Transgender athlete ban. Parents' Bill of Rights effort fails. It says efforts to ban transgender athletes from girls' sports and establish a Parents' Bill of Rights failed in the Kansas legislature on Thursday. But Republicans have pledged to make the issue a hallmark of campaigns this August and November. And then the Marine veteran released by Russia returns home. This is Trevor Reed, the Texas resident, former Marine arrested in Russia in 2019. He's greeted by Representative August Pfluger at a military airfield in Texas. Yes, that was that prisoner swap. And finally, Wichita baseball card thief finds redemption with honesty. Joe Ruocco was busy checking on the 56 dealers he'd assembled for the sports cards and memorabilia show hosted at North Rock Lanes when his wife said someone wanted to see him. A 30-something-year-old man approached him. "You don't know me, you probably don't remember me, but 25 years ago I went down to your shop to look for vintage cards. I asked you to show me the oldest ones you have." He had around 100 1909 tobacco cards. They were baseball cards issued with cigarettes, in this case the Sovereign and Piedmont brands, to promote the tobacco. It's known as the Monster Set. There are so many cards and variations. It's the number one set for veteran collectors. What Ruocco didn't realize is that this man, who was 12 at the time, took 4 of the cards without paying for them. He said, "I've put them in my safety deposit box for years." I guess guilt got to him, he said. "I was appreciative. It took a lot of guts to come up to me and return something to a person 25 years later. Are you kidding? I never heard of such a thing." He said theft is part of owning his business, which is located in North Rock, but would have been at the Rose Bowl East at the time the man took the cards. He said one time he had someone return something he took by mailing it back. But to do it face-to-face, well, that's something else. I mean, that's kind of cute in a way, isn't it? You know, a kid returning the baseball cards that he stole when he was 12. I get it. Okay, let's do our US news update now. Yeah. No, I think I've kept everything I've ever stolen, to be honest. Leah, library books is interesting, you know. Library books is interesting. Okay. Let's check our US news update now. It's a daily podcast that I do. You can download it wherever you get your podcasts. It's just a couple of minutes long. It'll update you on what's happening throughout the US. Okay, here it is. It's Friday, April 29. From the Volley Network, this is your daily US news update. I'm Anthony Davis. The Oklahoma legislature on Thursday approved 2 bills that would ban virtually all abortions, and both Republican-composed laws would take effect immediately if the governor signs them, as he has promised. Oklahoma would become the most restrictive U.S. state for abortions under the bill passed by the state Senate to ban them except in cases of medical emergency, rape, or incest. Earlier, the state's House of Representatives approved a separate piece of legislation to ban abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. The Senate also had previously approved that measure. The goal of this bill is to protect unborn children, and therefore we are telling everyone that abortion is prohibited except in limited circumstances, Senator Julie Daniels, a Republican, said of the near-total ban. Republican Governor Kevin Stitt said he will sign any anti-abortion legislation that reaches his desk. Meanwhile, the U.S. Congress's official probe into the January 6 assault on the Capitol by Donald Trump's supporters plans to hold at least 8 public hearings in June, some during prime-time television evening hours, its chairperson said on Thursday. Democratic Representative Benny Thompson, who leads the Select Committee, said some of the hearings would take place during normal workday hours and some in the evening. He had said earlier this week that the panel, which had planned public hearings in May, now planned hearings in June before issuing a report in early autumn, which would be before the November midterm elections. More than 100 people, including many Trump White House aides, have been interviewed in the committee's investigation. Your daily US news update is part of the Volley Network. To hear my live daily morning show, ask your Amazon Echo device to open Backchannel. There it is, the US News Update. Get it wherever you get your podcasts. 4 minutes after 10 here on the West Coast. That's 4 minutes after 1 Eastern. And thank you for joining Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis, and we are live. This is the only place on your Echo device where you can watch and listen and chat with live shows and hosts in real time. Now, we are here every Monday through Friday from 9 o'clock Pacific, that's 12 o'clock Eastern. You can send a message, you can ask questions or chime in on what we're talking about or anything else you would like to send my way. If you can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo show or Fire TV, the magic word is say. So wake her up, say the word say, and then your message. And if you're listening on an Echo speaker and you can't see me and you want to message me, we'll go to backchannel.tv and select join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. Marvelous. Okay, let's go back to some of the morning papers now. We were just in Wichita. Let's go to Kentucky. Wilson gets 35 years sentence. This is a guy who was convicted of complicity to commit murder in 2019. Car show events deliver a boost. It says tourism in Bowling Green is getting some added power this week with 2 large events. The Michelin Bash at the National Corvette Museum. And the Pro Drag Racing Championship Series at Beach Bend are running through Saturday. So there we go. I do love it. Personally, I love a car show. Love a car show. I have always loved cars. Did you know I love cars, Carla? Big car fan. Big car fan. Well, they're converting classic cars to electric now. A lot of that is going on. So you can buy like old cars from the 60s, Porsches and the like, that have been converted to electric. And a lot of people are doing that. But the thing about classic cars is people don't drive them every day. Classic cars are not really the problem. They're so rare. People drive them maybe for an hour on the weekends. But it's the cars that commute, and it's the trucks and the buses that commute. It's the commuter vehicles that are on the road all the time. They're the ones contributing to the climate change, not so much the classic cars, which I agree, they're putting out some smush into the air, but they're driven so rarely in comparison. But if you do, if you're a regular commuter and you drive, like 15,000 miles a year, or 20,000 miles a year in America, then that's obviously, it's a lot of emissions to consider. Okay, it's long overdue is the headline. Russellville's Alison Dunnigan being honoured. A pioneering journalist. This is interesting. It says, whilst the White House Correspondents' dinner is underway on Saturday in Washington, there'll be a large group of Kentuckians decked out in tuxedos and evening gowns watching the event on TV. The Correspondents Association recently announced it would create its first ever Lifetime Achievement Award in honour of 2 pioneering black women journalists, including Russellville native Alison Dunnigan. While some family members will be on hand for the dinner, which will feature President Joe Biden, others will be at home watching the proceedings on C-SPAN. When the family got word of her honour, it was a surprise to us all, said Alison Dunnigan's great niece, Penny. In my mind, it's long overdue. Alison Dunnigan's father was a sharecropper and her mother washed laundry for a living. She first became a teacher before becoming a reporter for the Chicago Defender newspaper. Then she became the first black female admitted to the White House, the press corps, in 1947. She's very interesting. And while in Washington, she covered presidents from Harry Truman to John F. Kennedy through 1961. She was a chief of the Washington Bureau of the Associated Negro Press and later worked for the President's Committee on Equal Employment Opportunity and the President's Commission on Youth Opportunity. She died in 1983. It says her achievements show that individuals with humble beginnings can achieve great success if they work hard. Yeah, well, she would write to her aunt about black history when she was a child. Amazing. So there we go. That's Russellville's Alison Dunnigan being honoured for a role as a pioneering journalist. And there's a statue of her. She fought for civil rights, equality and justice outside the Struggles for Emancipation and Equality Museum in Russellville, in Kentucky. She died in 1983. There we are. So that's the Bowling Green Daily News for you this morning. Yeah, she's definitely one of those people that deserves attention, and it's great that she's being honoured at the Correspondents' Dinner because there's people there that hopefully are going to kind of remember her, listen and remember her. Thank you very much for joining the chat. Lots of people chatting already. Christopher's just dropped in as well. Amanda and Sylvia and Kane and Accidental Dinosaur and Mickey and Connie. Thank you for joining us here on Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. If you'd like to send me a message, you can do so. If you can see me right now, you're watching on an Echo Show device. The magic word is say. So wake up your device, say the word say, and then your message. If you're just listening now on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. And you can join the chat there. Easy. Easily done. Okay, let's continue with some newspapers. That was the daily news for Kentucky. Was that Kentucky? Yes, I think it was. Next up, a reminder that Backchannel has a growing list of shows, including Haley and Alison's Good Morning, waking you up each morning, 3 a.m. Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern. And that's always a fun place to start your day with Haley and Alison and producer Will. They have trivia, as well as the answers to your burning questions and the news you might have missed. They're followed by Live Every Day with Liv Harrison from 5 o'clock Pacific, that's 7 o'clock Eastern. You can join Liv every Monday, Wednesday and Friday mornings to celebrate the little things in life in an extraordinary way. Candid conversations, lots of laughs and plenty of coffee will fuel you and encourage you to live every day. And just on air before me is Get On Up with Jam and Renee, waking up on the West Coast with community and conscious living. Jam and Renee have it all covered from what people think to who's wearing what. You'll leave entertained and enlightened every day, and you'll learn how to pay it all forward. So, there we go. Should we go to Oklahoma next? Let's go to Oklahoma and take a look at the Tulsa World newspaper. They lead this morning with anti-abortion pills pass. Abortion bans remained at the top or near the top of the agenda for the Oklahoma legislature's ruling Republicans on Thursday, with the House and Senate each muscling through one or the other's abortion bills on the... did I say pills? I meant bills. That's so funny. Abortion bills on the final day of this session to pass opposite chamber legislation. House Republicans, in particular, flexed their supermajority to full effect. With an 82-18 advantage, House Republicans can essentially do whatever they want, and demonstrated it by bringing Senate Bill 503, the fetal heartbeat bill, to the floor first thing, procedurally cutting off all debate and discussion, and then quickly sending the measure to Governor Kevin Stitt on a 69-13 vote. Stitt has already signed a near-total abortion ban, and another bill on his desk that represents state law to pre-Roe v. Wade in anticipation of the U.S. Supreme Court revising or modifying the legislation. Donors pitch in for bridge, $7.2 million raised for the Williams Crossing. This is president and CEO of Williams, the civil engineer, with an appreciation for how things are put together. Alan Armstrong, his name is. Standing on the west bank of the Arkansas River last week, he looked out at the flowing water and the new pedestrian bridge being constructed above it. It was the first close-up of a peek at the project. He said, I just went immediately. He said, this is so cool, it's very unique. He wasn't on site a sightseeing excursion. He was there to get his first-hand look at the company's latest philanthropic venture, a $3 million donation to the project. Mayor G.T. Bynum and other officials are scheduled to hold a press conference on Friday to announce the city has raised $7.2 million in private donations for the project, that the bridge will be named the Williams Crossing. I mean, this is kind of amazing, isn't it? I do love a bridge. I don't know about you, but I love a bridge. Always have done. And I particularly love a pedestrian footbridge. My favourite one in London is called Hungerford Bridge. Carla, I'm sure you've walked across Hungerford Bridge a gazillion times. Yeah, people don't even know its name. Isn't that crazy? It's the main footbridge as you come out of Charing Cross Station or Embankment Station. It's right by Embankment Station on the Thames, and it takes you straight over to the South Bank. And it's a 2-direction footbridge, and it basically shares the bridge with a train. So train goes through the middle, and it's called... No, that's the Millennium Bridge. That's a different bridge. This is the Hungerford Bridge. This sits outside Embankment Station. And it's massive. It's a huge bridge, suspension bridge. It's for my money, it's the best bridge to walk over in London. You know? Or actually, that's not true. Maybe Waterloo Bridge is pretty good to walk over. But Hungerford Bridge is my favourite because it's the one I used to use all the time. Hungerford Bridge. I used to work at the TV studios on the South Bank, and I also worked in Leicester Square, and so I would have to get there somehow, and I don't like to take the subway because I get a bit claustrophobic, so I would walk along Hungerford Bridge. Great times. I'm really looking forward to going to London, actually. I'm going to be going in a month's time. Super excited about that. It's like a whole new adventure for me. I haven't been there for like 3 years, 2.5 years. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. Okay, let's see what else we have on the old bridge front. Love a bridge story, me. Love a bridge story. Who doesn't love a bridge? Stitt rescinds parole. Governor, council, DA sent new info on crossbow killer. And tiger stops in Tulsa for a round. That's Tiger Woods, not a real tiger. It says, when does speculation graduate to expectation? It happened when Gulfstream jet owned by Tiger Woods descended onto a runway at Tulsa International Airport on Thursday. Having traveled from his Florida home, he arrived during the late morning, at which time it felt certain the Gulf's brightest star would attempt to play in Tulsa's May 19 PGA Championship. Oh, I love a bit of bridge trivia. What have you got, Carla? Yes. No. Yes. Yes. I think it. I think. Well, I think it might have been Boston, but I'm not sure. I know that it got moved, and I knew that it went to America. Let me just try and think. Where did London Bridge go to? It's a good question. Maybe you know. Maybe you could message me in the usual way. You know, wake up your device, say the word "say," and then your message. Where did London Bridge end up? Because London Bridge in London is not to be confused with Tower Bridge. And a lot of American tourists, they look at Tower Bridge and they go, oh, that's London Bridge. And it's not. London Bridge is actually quite a new bridge, and it's very boring. It has no, it's not ornate in any way. It's just a traffic bridge. So if you think you know, I'm trying to remember, then, you know, you can shout out in the usual way. Just say the word "say" and then your message. Or go to backchannel.tv. That's backchannel.tv and let me know. But I think it went... Oh, hang on. I think I can remember. Didn't it go to Arizona? Did it go to Arizona? I promise you I didn't Google it. I swear. I'm telling you. I can't remember where in Arizona, but I think it went to Arizona. Not to be confused with Boston. Where in Arizona did it go? Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you telling me off. They moved every brick by brick. But why did they do it? I mean, I would be more inclined to know why they did it. Oh, just a rich American wanted to buy London Bridge. Because famously there's that song, London Bridge is Falling Down. Well, it certainly has fallen down onto because obviously they put it on a boat on the River Thames. That's how they transported it. And then they shipped it to Arizona. I mean, it would have had to have gone through like the Panama Canal. Did it go through the Panama Canal? Must have done. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He must have put it onto a barge or a boat or a ship, and multiple ships even, and then shipped it. Because if you think about it, it's coming out of the Thames, and it's going to join the English Channel. Then it's going to go into the North Atlantic, and then it's going to have to go down to the South Atlantic, and then it's going to have to go round the Florida, and up to the Panama Canal to get it round to Arizona, unless they took it to the East Coast and then they took it by land. Let me see if I can read this. Here we go. My eyesight is not good enough for this. Hang on. Okay, thank you. It says, here we go. This is what the story says. It says, in the early 1960s, officials in England made a troubling discovery. They did. London Bridge was falling down. The 1,000-foot span had stood for over 130 years and survived strafing during World War II's London Blitz. But it was unequipped for modern traffic and was slowly sinking into the River Thames at a rate of 1 inch every 8 years. Renovations were deemed impractical, so the City of London resolved to build a wider, more car-friendly replacement. The 19th century granite bridge seemed destined for the junkyard, but a city councillor named Ivan Luckin convinced his colleagues it might be possible to sell it to the United States. Yeah, there's always a buyer. He crossed the ponds to market the monument to prospective buyers. Luckin knew that London Bridge might be a tough sell. Completed in 1831 from a design by engineer John Rennie, it was the less glamorous successor of several other crossings, most notably the medieval London Bridge, which stood for 600 years and was once dotted with buildings and water wheels. Londoners consider the existing bridge dull by comparison, but after arriving in America, Luckin promoted it as a timeless landmark. London Bridge is not just a bridge, he announced in a press conference in New York. It is the heir to 2,000 years of history, going back to the 1st century AD, to the time of Roman Londinium. I mean, that's just garbage. Of course it isn't. The Romans never went anywhere near that bridge. The London Bridge sales pitch raised more than a few eyebrows in the United States, but for one businessman it seemed like a natural fit. Robert McCulloch was a Missouri-born industrialist who had made millions heading up companies that sold oil and motors and chainsaws. Shamelessly eccentric, he once told a reporter that the secret of his success was booze and broads. What a lovely man. The tycoon also had a penchant for pursuing pie-in-the-sky business schemes. The most recent had come in 1963 when he purchased thousands of acres of land near Arizona's Lake Havasu, an isolated body of water created by a dam on the Colorado River. McCulloch had founded the community of Lake Havasu City at the site and had designs on making a tourist oasis, but he was still struggling to attract visitors. When his business associate, C.V. Wood, told him about London Bridge, the two concluded it was just the kind of eye-catching centerpiece that the Lake Havasu needed. McCulloch even hatched a plan to carve one of the lake's peninsulas into an island so the bridge would have something to span. I had this ridiculous idea of bringing it to the Arizona desert, he later joked to the Chicago Tribune. I needed the bridge, but even if I didn't, I might have bought it anyway. Well, negotiations for the purchase proceeded rapidly during the spring to 1968. According to McCulloch, the most difficult part was hashing out a sales price with the City of London authorities. We poured an awful lot of scotch trying to loosen them up enough to give us some idea of how much they wanted. After learning that dismantling the bridge would cost London $1.2 million, McCulloch and Wood decided to offer double that amount. As a sweetener, McCulloch tacked an additional $60,000 to $1,000 for each year he would be he would be when the bridge reopened in Lake Havasu. In April 1968, for a final price of $2,460,000, Robert McCulloch became the proud owner of the world's largest antique. And then he had to move it, of course. They began by labeling each of its granite bricks with markers that indicated their arch span, row, number, and position. The bridge was then disassembled, packed away in crates, and shipped to Long Beach, California via the Panama Canal. See? The Panama Canal. I knew it. From there, a small army of trucks carried it across the desert to its new home at Lake Havasu. To ensure the bridge could handle modern traffic, construction crews built a hollow core of steel-reinforced concrete, which was then covered with 10,000 tons of the original 19th century granite. The painstaking assembly process took place over a small strip of land that connected a peninsula to the mainland. But as the project neared completion, workers cut a mile-long channel through the isthmus and allowed it to fill with water, creating an island. All told, the shipping, assembly, and dredging took over 3 years and cost $7 million, 7 times as much as McCulloch had spent on the land that made up Lake Havasu City. But finally, on October 10th, 1971, London Bridge was ready for its debut in the United States. McCulloch dedicated the monument in a ceremony that included skydivers, fireworks, marching bands, hot air balloons, and a dinner banquet featuring lobster and roast beef, the same meal that had been served to King William IV during the bridge's original unveiling in 1831. London's Lord Mayor attended, clad in his black ceremonial robes and accompanied by a sword-bearer, and celebrities Robert Mitchum and Dan Rowan were on hand to add some star power. I hope it was worth it for him, I really do. It's a super gimmick, the New York Times quoted one British newsman saying. It's all quite mad and could only happen in America. Only in America would think of investing that much in something as crazy as this. Well, the reporter wasn't the only one who considered the London Bridge project a crackpot scheme. By 1971, the purchase had become widely known as McCulloch's Folly, and many predicted he and would live to regret it. There was even a rumor, since discredited, that the Americans had been duped into thinking they were buying the more iconic Tower Bridge. In the end, however, it was McCulloch and Wood who had the last laugh. Their whimsical purchase proved to be the marketing ploy that Lake Havasu City needed. From a population of just a few hundred in the early 1960s, the town blossomed to over 10,000 residents by 1974. In 1975, its Chamber of Commerce reported that the bridge had drawn nearly 2 million visitors the previous year. McCulloch would later gamble on several other far-fetched business schemes before his death in 1977, including promoting gyroplanes as commuter vehicles. The town he built from scratch is now home to over 50,000 full-time residents and boasts a thriving tourist industry. London Bridge is still standing after 185 years on 2 continents and remains its most recognizable landmark. Isn't that lovely? Well, the new London Bridge doesn't actually look dissimilar to this London Bridge. In fact, it's not even as pretty. It doesn't have like the granite blocks like that. It's just a bit of a concrete thing, London Bridge. London Bridge is the one that is connects with... I can't remember the names of anything in London anymore. It's been so long since I've been there. I can't remember. I just can't remember the names of anything. Carla, do you know when I'm coming to London, it's the Queen's Golden Jubilee that week, and everyone's going to be off work. Oh, you're not a royalist like I am? No. Okay, well, I'm sure we've had this conversation before. Anyway, guess who's got tickets to go to the Queen's Golden Jubilee pageant? I'm going to the pageant. Can't wait. Isn't that great? Pop back to London, go see the Queen. Literally, gonna go and see the Queen. There it is. Yeah, that's what I'm going to. Can you tell me what it is? I don't even know what it is. A friend of mine said I've got you a ticket. Okay. If you're enjoying the show, there's two ways to support the show that would help us out. If you're watching right now and you can see that subscribe button, click on it. Subscribing will let you know when we're going live. We've got some special plans coming up in the next few weeks if you are subscribed. Another thing you can do is, if you're watching or listening, is leaving a review. So just go to backchannel.tv, click leave a review, as your positive reviews keep the show going. So that's backchannel.tv and click leave a review. There you go. I'm Anthony Davis. This is Backchannel. We're here live. It's the only place on your Echo device where you can watch and listen to live shows and chat with hosts in real time. I'm here every Monday through Friday from 9 o'clock Pacific, that's 12 o'clock Eastern. You can send me a message, ask questions, chime in on what we're talking about, or anything else that you want to send my way. If you're watching right now, the magic word is say to wake up your Echo show, and then send the message. And if you're just listening on a speaker and you can't see me, then you can go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. Click join the chat. Jessica's popped in. Hello, Jessica. Nice to see you. Nifty Kangaroo is here. Wistful Porcupine. Loud Raccoon. Christina. Welcome. Great to see you here on the Back Channel on this, what day is it? Friday, April 29, 2022. I'm a bit pony today, which is a little horse. Little horse. Yeah, it's subtle, but these are the jokes. Should we jump onto some of our stories? We wanted to talk about Donald Trump. The most serious cases of his legal problems include 2 criminal investigations, one into possible election interference and another into alleged financial crimes. Meanwhile, a political inquiry is considering recommending criminal charges over Mr. Trump's role in storming of the U.S. Congress on the 6th of January. As Trump contemplates a 2024 presidential rerun, what are the legal cases that may threaten those ambitions? Well, of course, the Capitol riots is the one that we know the most about because it's the most, it's the most obvious, isn't it? He may have been out of power for over a year, but legal issues related to his time in office still present some risk to the former president. He stands accused of inciting an insurrection when his supporters ransacked the Capitol building as members of Congress certified Joe Biden's election win. For weeks before, he'd made unfounded claims of election fraud, which he repeated at a rally on the Washington Mall just before the riot. Shortly afterwards, he was acquitted in a political trial in the Republican-controlled Senate, and his supporters declared victory, but that wasn't the end of it. In July last year, Democratic and some Republican politicians formed a January 6th committee, which is examining Trump's actions in detail. It's obtained thousands of communications made by and to the White House that day. And while the committee has no legal powers to prosecute Mr. Trump, it could choose to refer criminal charges to the U.S. government's chief lawyer, the Attorney General Merrick Garland. In a recent court case over the release of emails by his lawyers, there were hints the committee could do just that. Well, the Democratic judge said it was likely Trump had committed the crimes alleged by the committee. Those crimes include obstructing the vote count in Congress and conspiring to defraud the U.S. by overturning the election results, which can both be punishable by fines or jail terms. An interim report of the committee's findings due this June may pile the pressure on the attorney to act. Still, proving the crimes alleged by the committee would be difficult and politically controversial. No former president has ever been prosecuted. Well, no former president has ever tried to overturn an election. There's no precedent for the president. And that's the concern, isn't it? That, they need to write some laws. I just feel they're dragging their feet. The longer they take, the more license it gives him to get away with it, Even if a conviction was secured, it would likely be overturned absent some new evidence showing an active role in planning or facilitating the riot, said criminal defense lawyer Jonathan Turley, who was called by Republicans to testify at Trump's impeachment hearings. The greatest danger could come from Mr. Trump's response to the investigation. For example, evidence was destroyed or false statements were made. Those are often the most common tripwires in Washington scandals, but we've not seen such allegations against Trump so far. It's very frustrating, Merrick Garland is the Attorney General, and everyone says that he's not going to do anything. So what do? You just allow a president to get away with overturning an election and committing, fraud against his own country. What about gassing his own people at protests? What about separating children from their parents at the border? What about disappearing people off the streets of Portland in unmarked cars and unmarked militia uniforms? What about extorting Volodymyr Zelensky on the phone to get him to investigate his opponent in the election? What about asking Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State for Georgia, to find 11,780 more votes, which is one more than he needed to win the state? He actually said it. It's on tape. What about the Mueller report, the Mueller inquiry, which basically said that if Trump wasn't the president, he would be convicted of conspiring with a foreign country, a foe, to win the 2016 election? I mean, this is just the half of it. Then you've got all the fraud crimes with the Trump organization, valuing their properties at higher prices to get favorable sales and then to lower the value when trying to get loans. Then you've also got the sexual exploits as well, sexual misconduct, with Jean Carroll, who made allegations saying that Trump had raped her in a department store. What was Trump's response when he was asked about this? "She's not my type," he said. That's what he said. I mean, the guy is like he's a career criminal. What about stealing all those White House records and taking them to Mar-a-Lago? Removing official records, that's a criminal offense. And then there's all these smaller lawsuits as well. The Washington, D.C. Attorney General's criminal investigation into the 6th of January. A lawsuit by the same D.C. Attorney General who was accusing Mr. Trump of misusing funds for his 2017 inauguration. Various lawsuits by police officers who have accused Trump of inciting the January 6th attack in which they suffered injuries. A lawsuit by Mr. Trump's niece, Mary Trump, who said her uncle and his siblings allegedly cheated her out of inheritance. A lawsuit filed in Manhattan federal court by Trump's former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, who alleges his old boss sent him back to prison in retaliation for writing a tell-all memoir. What about commuting the sentences of his henchmen, Paul Manafort and Roger Stone? I mean, it's not like there's one crime. This is not like Nixon and the tapes. This is like relentless criminality. And yet, trust me, he's going to get away with it. And trust me, he's probably going to get re-elected. And if he does, he is going to enact revenge against everybody that has ever wronged him. That's his plan. His whole presidency from 2024 onwards will be one of revenge. Roy has joined us. Hello, Roy. Wicked Armadillo is in. Choice Moth has joined us for the first time. Welcome, Choice Moth. You can hit the subscribe button. Jeff's here. Jessica's here. Nifty Kangaroo's here. Wistful Porcupine, all hanging out in the back channel. Great to see you. Welcome. Willkommen. Bienvenue. So, yeah, I mean, this is, face the reality over what Donald Trump stands for, Aside from the racism and the misogyny and the prejudice and, the stuff that's happening at the southern border, what about using a Sharpie pen to extend the trajectory of a storm so as not to contradict what he accidentally said? Remember that? When he said that the storm was going to go into Texas as well, and he drew it with a Sharpie on a map? I mean, it's just the incompetence and the disorganization and the contradictions. What about being sued for telling people that drinking bleach might be a suitable way of combating coronavirus? Let's also look at the dozens of House Republicans on Wednesday who signed a bill to petition to force a vote on legislation that would ban transgender women and girls from playing on sports teams that match their gender identity. 9 lawmakers, led by Representative Jim Banks, who's a Republican senator in Indiana, submitted the petition on Tuesday to discharge the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, which was introduced by Representative Greg Steube in Florida in January and has not been taken up by the House Education and Labor Committee. I mean, people don't realize quite how many transgender people there are. It's not like there's just one person complaining. There's literally thousands of transgender people. It's a very normal thing to happen in birth, is to be born with a female mind and a male body, or a male mind and a female body. It's just what happens. I mean, if you're thinking, how is this possible? Let me ask you this. Did you choose your gender? Did you choose your sexuality, or did it choose you? Did you choose your gender identity? If you're male and you feel male and you look down and you see a male body parts, you didn't choose any of those things. Well, it's the same for transgender people. They didn't choose to be female, and yet when they look down, they see male body parts. That is a defect of the birthing process. We're not perfect as a race. We are an imperfect race. We come in all flavors and all shapes and sizes and colors. That's what humanity is. Humanity is transgenderism. Humanity is what we call minority groups, and we shouldn't. I've always had a problem with the phrase like ethnic minorities. I mean, what does that even mean? You know? The race is the human race. That is the race. My least favorite abbreviation was BAME. They've stopped using it now. Black and minority ethnic. Is that what it is? Black, Asian, minority ethnic. I hated that when that came out, and they've stopped using it now because it was just clearly too offensive. You know why it was offensive? Because it sounded like blame. You know? And so when you heard politicians talking about it, they would say BAME, they BAME, and it's like, well, you mean blame. You're basically blaming the minority groups. I hated that. The worst. Well, it's a little bit like Antifa, you know. Antifa became popularized by the far right groups, Donald Trump and that lot. And Antifa is not even a thing. It stands for Antifa, which is anti-fascist. And to be anti-fascist is hopefully all of us. Hopefully you are Antifa and I am Antifa. But the reason the right wing seized on it is because it sounded like Al-Qaeda. And then when it was designated a terrorist organization by the Trump administration, that kind of added fuel to the fire that Antifa was a terrorist group just like Al-Qaeda was a terrorist group. Because anything that sounds foreign to them is bad. And so therefore, Antifa was a perfect name for... I mean, they tried to blame the January 6th insurrection on Antifa, you know? I am Antifa. I am proudly Antifa. And hopefully you too are Antifa. But Antifa is not an organization. So it can't be designated a terrorist organization because it doesn't exist. It has no membership card. It has no website. It has no meetings. It's not a thing. There's no Antifa meetings. It's just basically people who oppose fascism. And because Donald Trump was a fascist, people opposed him. And therefore he designated it a terrorist organization because he didn't want to be opposed. Is that on the Politico one? What am I looking at here? Oh, on transathlete.com. Yeah, I've got it here. Okay, so this is 5 tips for trans allies. This is as of transathlete.com. Respect is number 1. Respect transgender people's name and pronoun. In all interactions, address them as their preferred name and the preferred pronoun they use. Respect their privacy by not outing them or telling others of their identity without permission. Number 2 is confidentiality. Protecting the privacy of transgender student athletes must be a top priority for all athletic department and affiliated school personnel, particularly in the presence of the media. All medical information should be kept confidential in accordance with the applicable state, local and federal privacy laws. Number 3, support. Listen and be supportive. Allow trans people to control who they tell about their identity and how they tell them. Number 4, every journey is different. Some trans people use hormones, some do not. Some have surgery, many do not, especially in America, because it's expensive. Every trans person's journey is unique. People have both a gender identity and sexual orientation, but some trans individuals don't identify with one or either and don't consider these descriptions part of their identities. Trans people can be straight, gay, bisexual, asexual, or have a different sexual identity. So, number 5, finally, educate yourself. Challenge your own notions of gender roles and expectations. Use inclusive language. Continue your education on trans topics. Do not expect trans people to be responsible for educating you. And do not ask invasive questions. There it is. I mean, there it is. It's not complicated. I mean, it's kind of common sense, really. Okay, let's just a reminder that if you enjoyed the show today, there's several ways to support the show. If you're watching right now and you can see the subscribe button down on the left-hand side of your screen, then click it. Subscribing will let you know when we're going live. And as I mentioned, we've got some special plans coming up in the next few weeks for those of you who are subscribed. Another way you can help us out, no matter where you're watching or listening, is by leaving a review. So just go to backchannel.tv and click Leave a Review. Your positive reviews help this show keep going. So that's backchannel.tv. Click Leave a Review. I'm here every weekday, Monday through Friday, and you can come back tomorrow and open your Echo, open Backchannel. And I will appear on your screen or in your speaker. Very, very easy. You got me for another 9 minutes, and then your pal Hal will be here to entertain you. A reminder that Backchannel has a growing list of shows, including Kate Cocker's Everyday Positivity Show on Tuesday and Thursday from 6 o'clock Pacific, that's 9 o'clock Eastern, for an hour of positive news and good vibes. Following my show every Monday through Friday is your pal Hal with Hal Rudnick, taking you on a tour of comedy, news, and pop culture from 11 o'clock Pacific, that's 2 o'clock Eastern. And finally, don't forget to check out The Drive with Mario Smith, weekdays from 1 o'clock. Everyone's drive home needs a second look. Mario will make sure you are in the know. So, some things to enjoy. Yeah, here's the best glasses. Big, red glass. They're like this, but red and bigger. So, there we go. So we've been looking at transgenderism and talking about transgenderism in sport. I don't think we're going to get time necessarily to do the animal rights story. Maybe we could do that one tomorrow. But finally, we could mention Betsy Anker Johnson, because on this day, 1927, the renowned American physicist and auto company executive was born in St. Louis, Missouri. And it was a technological age, which is amongst us now. We can thank many scientists for it. Among them will be Dr. Betsy Anker Johnson. She created the gigacycle range signal generator that allows engineers to test whether circuits of a certain appliance are working without impairments or interference. Well, this has made the use of technology faster and accurate, and this is a benefit for society. We are the advanced generation, and her invention of the signal generator made the use of everyday appliances such as microwaves and wireless applications less faulty and much faster to use. She began a uniquely diverse and illustrious career in physics, engineering, and public service just after World War II, and credited with a variety of inventions and achievements, including the development of a high-frequency signal generator in the 1960s. She serves as one of the United States' most distinguished role models for women, as part of a generation that helped to change perspectives on gender roles and aptitudes in scientific fields. I mean, you would never know. There's sometimes these things, like a signal generator. You would just never know that we even needed a signal generator, right? And yet, who invented Wi-Fi? Hedy Lamarr? No. How did she invent Wi-Fi? Well, she was a genius, that's true. I love the fact that you know that she invented Wi-Fi, and yet you haven't really got much in the way of Wi-Fi. Oh, I see. She was one of these women who basically just, listened to everything that was being said and processed it and worked on it privately. Yeah, very interesting. Wi-Fi is insane, isn't it? The fact that, we can actually surf the internet without plugging in. It's just amazing. And now, of course, Wi-Fi is disappearing and over-the-air, high-speed data internet is becoming the next big thing, So soon we won't need a box in our living room. We'll just be able to connect directly with Elon Musk's satellites in the sky. It's all changing, isn't it? Over the course of her career, Anker Johnson has written more than 70 scientific papers. She's received a variety of honors and awards, including membership of the American Association of the Advancement of Science, as well as the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. In 1975, she was the fourth woman elected to the National Academy of Engineering. Retired from General Motors in 1992. As of 1988, she served as pro bono director at the World Environment Center. Yeah. She was issued the U.S. patent 3,287,659 for signal generators using semiconductor material in magnetic and electric fields in 1966. Remember that, because that question is going to come up one day in a trivia. You remember that. So her name, Betty Anker Johnson. Kind of amazing. Born in 1927, inspired by her mother, who encouraged her to wholeheartedly pursue whatever was the most interesting career to her. She chose physics, and she earned a bachelor's degree, and then she moved to Germany, and she attended the university there where she completed her PhD in physics. We really shouldn't be limited. Yeah, she had 4 kids. I don't know how they do that, I really don't. 1 is 1, 2 is 20. 4? You're kidding me, aren't you? She was working with Boeing, and then she developed her most famous invention, the signal generator, based on her finding that if a low-density plasma is established in a piece of semiconductor material in the presence of a high-intensity electric field and low-intensity parallel magnetic field, very high-frequency signals well into the gigacycle range may be generated. I mean, I could have told you that. Boeing is not having a good news day today, Boeing is really struggling at the moment, and I have to say I'm quite pleased about that, because I'm not a fan of Boeing anymore. I used to be until they killed 346 people in 2 air crashes and refused to ground the aircraft concerned, the 737 MAX. Anyway, they have another big plane which they've been working on called the 777X, and I've said for the last 3 or 4 years, there's no way that thing's ever going to make it to market. Well, today they announced that they're pushing it back even further to 2025. I don't think that plane will ever see the light of day, but that's just me. Do they make a lot of planes in Belfast? That's interesting. Yeah, these days it's like Boeing is, Seattle and where's the other place? They have 2 factories. I think they might be shutting one of them down. And then Airbus, of course, most of those are now made in Toulouse. But I think they might also have a new South American factory as well. Well, it's not South American, it's in America, but it's a factory for Airbus here as well. Interesting. For me, obviously. Oh, the A220, right. Well, the reason that's made in Belfast is because the A220, it was not an Airbus originally. It was actually created by another company, and they were struggling to sell them. So Airbus decided to join forces with this company and rename the plane and call it the Airbus A220, and therefore they were able to sell a lot more of them because suddenly they were Airbuses. Bombardier Aerospace, which is Canadian, and they're a Canadian company that had their factory in Northern Ireland. Isn't it crazy that between us we know all this stuff? Crazy, isn't it? "70 years on the throne for Her Majesty the Queen. To celebrate it, here is Barbie giving a royal celebration." I've got to get me one of those. How do I get a royal Barbie? That's what I want. I'm not getting it for my daughter. I'm getting it for myself. Are you kidding me? Thanks for joining the show tonight. Sorry I've been coughing a little bit. I'm not very well. But, I'll do my best and get back on track for Monday. I'll be here Monday morning from 9 a.m. Pacific. Wake up your device, say the word "say," and send a message to your pal Hal. He's next here on Backchannel. Have a really great weekend. Bye for now.